fried pickles, so they just
Oh,
fry everything.
I do love a good fried pickle, I will
You know what?
say.
I see pie on this list, and I feel like pie sounds about right. When I think of Oklahoma City, I don't know why, but I think pie. That, I think that would that connects most with me out of all the foods that I just read on that list.
There's something really quick about pie. Oh, no one knows what we were talking about.
Oh.
Happy Taco Tuesday, guys, because there's no audio. So we're going to talk about this again. Alex, how's your
The
Tuesday
first words were fried pickle.
Which, I mean, that's how we want to start every show from now on, because I do love fried pickles. Alex, how's your day going? We'll start there.
It's great. As we mentioned, Taco Tuesday, and I was saying I think that I really want a good shrimp taco today. I think that sounds like the move. I'm going to have to make that happen at some point today.
And then I was talking about how we're in Oklahoma City right now. Obviously, the Hawks played in Indiana last night. We play the Thunder tomorrow, so we have an off day in OKC. And what is OKC known for? Please run through the list again, because I didn't know that they were known for barbecue. But you looked up a list of top 10 things to eat in Oklahoma City. So please, let's hear
it. We got a fried onion burger, fried bread tacos.
Bread tacos?
Fried bread tacos, which, okay. Biscuits and gravy. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got fried okra. I've never had fried okra.
I don't even know what okra is, to be honest.
Strawberries. Can you be known for strawberries? Is that a...
Yeah. You said they're known for pie?
Okay, so fried pies is what I'm saying. I've never had a fried pie. They fry everything in Oklahoma City.
To be honest with you, everything seems fried. To be honest with you, there's something with me about pies and mushy fruit, similar to how I feel about pineapple on pizza.
Tamale pie. A tamale pie. I don't know how I feel about that.
Huh.
But yeah, I feel like a pie.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you need a pie today.
Maybe I'll try it out. There's something, Alex, about mushy fruit that just doesn't sit well in my stomach. Same thing with like pineapple on pizza. It's just like mushy, warm fruit, right?
Oh, you're not a pie girl?
I'm not. Mushy fruit in general, like even like the Chobani yogurts with like the mushy fruit at the bottom, those freak me out too. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, the only Chobani yogurt to get is the flip ones where you can put in like the Oreo.
Oh yeah, and like they have like the chocolate in them.
Those are the ones where those are the
like the little kitty ones.
Yeah. But I'm a big apple pie guy. Like that's probably. I mean, that's a top 3 dessert for me. That's a top 3 dessert.
So very interesting. Good to know. Big pie guy. March 14th, Pie Day, just passed. Was your favorite day of the year? You love to see it. That's my dad jokes for the day. Okay, let's get into the show so we can save me for myself. We got a lot to talk about today. We have the Final Four this weekend, so we're going to do an early look ahead of leans that we're making for the college basketball Final Four. We have the NBA morning radar, taking a look at some of the games tonight, some of the things going on around the league, some bets that we have, NHL Ice Picks. We have Pete Jensen coming on as well to talk a little NHL with us. And we can't end without our Pickswise play of the day and our 3-star play of the days. So let's get right into it. But before we do, I'm going to read this verbatim from our rundown. Pickswise is giving away $100 each tournament game day to one person who can correctly make your spread or totals picks from the Final Four. If you get all your picks right, you'll be entered to win. Use the link in the description to sign up now for daily cash prizes. So make sure to enter. All you got to do, pick who you think is going to win the spread.
Is this the men's and women's tournament?
I think it's men's and women's. Right, boys? Right, producers? Producer Jack, Producer Justin, we need you here.
Sorry, I'm asking. Wow, bad on my end. I shouldn't ask questions we don't know the answers to.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you putting me on the spot like that.
Rule number one.
Rule number one. Okay, let's get right into college basketball, Final Four. First game, Kansas taking on Villanova. I want to get your kind of breakdown for how you're leaning and how you're betting some of these games, because obviously I have my take on them as well.
Yeah. As much as I want to back Villanova and Jay Wright, I definitely trust Jay Wright in this spot more than I do Bill Self. That Justin Moore injury to me is a really big deal. Now, Jared and I were talking about this yesterday on the show because we believe that, I mean, obviously that's a big deal. Odds makers have cooked that into the number. But I think that the public is going to be all over Kansas to the point where we could see that number move. And we could see a better number than what we're seeing today. We're still seeing 4.5. So 4.5 at 110 still. So I think that there's a chance it's going to – listen, I'm not going to get a worse number than 4.5. So I think I'm going to wait that game out as long as possible to make a decision. But we'll talk later about how I'm looking at these games and how I would play it if things kind of stayed the way they are. But for that one, I'm leaning Villanova. But I don't feel great about it because they're not a deep team. They don't play a lot of guys. That Justin Moore injury, the second leading scorer, is a really big deal, and that's really going to affect how they play because when he hasn't been out there on the floor this season, just for rest or various reasons, it's a very different looking Villanova team that's out there. So they got a lot they're going to have to figure out over the next couple of days with how they're going to adjust to be missing their guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely with the public on this one. I have Kansas laying 4.5, and I already bet it just because I'm afraid of the line moving a little bit more, and I really don't want Kansas to be laying any more than 4.5 points in the spot. For Nova, you can't beat Kansas if you don't shoot threes, right? That was Miami's issue. They only shot 3 of 21 from 3, and that game turned out really bad. Against Houston, they only hit 5 of 21 from outside, but it was enough for them in that game. But if they're not able to hit the 3 ball against a team like Kansas, they're not going to be winning this game. Kansas's answer, like you were saying, to winning is Justin Moore. I really think so. Nova is more than one guy, obviously, but they're just not a deep team, and they lost their heart and soul, I would say, to that Achilles injury. That sucks. That really sucks that he was injured in that game. I look at Kansas, and for me, they're a rebounding machine at this point, and they're great at defending the 3. They handled Providence, 3-point shooting. They destroyed Creighton on the inside or on the boards, and they should be able to crank up defense and make Nova work on the inside in this game. And they should also be able to match Nova shot for shot at the free throw line, which is basically Villanova's bread and butter, is their ability to make free throws. I just look at Kansas. They're a superior team. Their ability to work inside, to shoot outside, their defensive ability to force turnovers against a team that doesn't really make mistakes. I think it's going to be just enough for them in a spot like this. And I also think that the Big 12 kind of got Kansas ready for this game. Like, the loss of Moore is going to be massive for Nova. The depth won't be there. And it's not going to be a pretty game. I think it's going to be more of a grind. Kansas is going to grind to win the final minutes of the game. It's going to be close. But I think that they'll be able to cover 4.5 in this spot, especially with Nova not having their heart and soul in Justin Moore.
Well, now it's just going to come down to Colin Gillespie's going to have to carry this team.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to. Can he do it? Yes. And the thing about Nova, everybody on that team can shoot. So they're never going to be out of the game. I don't trust them right now fully because of all season. They play 6 or 7 guys. Like, they don't go deep to the bench. So it's going to be a guy that we don't know that's going to have to step up. Could it happen? Yeah. I just trust Jay Wright. I think that, like, you're exactly right. They're going to have to slow it down, grind it out. They played good defense, but offensively, I can just see them struggling because when Gillespie hasn't been on the floor and when Moore hasn't been on the floor, that's what they've struggled this season.
Yeah. And I really do think the 3 ball is going to be huge in this game. If they can get their threes flowing, Villanova, I have a better feeling about it. If they can't, I don't think they have a chance at all. And they only hit 5 of 21 from outside against Houston. It was enough for them because obviously the way that Houston plays, but if they're hitting 5 of 21 from 3 against Kansas, they ain't winning that game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I know Kansas is really good at defending the 3 ball too. So I'm so excited for the Final Four, though, especially for this game. Duke taking on North Carolina. It's a rematch of Coach K's final home game at Duke. They're going to have a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth. I think, Alex, I don't know if you agree with me, that North Carolina was kind of underseeded in this tournament.
Absolutely.
Right? What do you think is going to happen in this game?
It's tough to say because both teams are playing better than I think anyone expected them to play in the tournament. I mean, Duke is one of those teams that a lot of people, myself included, thought was overseeded and would probably get bounced early on just because they hadn't looked great throughout the season. They struggled with, a lot of inferior opponents throughout the season. We're talking about struggling with the Miamis, the Florida States, Virginias, So they haven't looked like a legit number 2, but I mean, they look like the best team in the country to me over the course of this tournament, and they've been doing it against, I think is a much better or much tougher road than UNC's had to deal with. They beat Michigan State, they beat Texas Tech, they beat Arkansas. Like, these are strong defensive teams, one, and they've been doing it with their defense, and they've been shooting well from the field. I want to say that 55% or something.
Yeah, 55% from the field during the tournament.
It's just like Paolo Banchero's looked like definitely a lottery pick, maybe the first overall pick at times. He's just kind of shown his full arsenal of skills. And I just like the way this Duke team is playing right now. And I think that they're going to be able to keep it rolling against this Carolina team that I don't want to say has had an easy road, but it definitely hasn't been the road that Duke's had to travel here. And I do think that revenge factor after getting, Coach K night, all that spoiled. I think that, it's all, I mean, it's going to be a great game. But if I had to pick a side for this one, I would lay the 4.5 with Duke. That being said, we'll get into it. After I get your thoughts. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to play this weekend after we get your thoughts.
Yeah, the spread right now is still sitting at 4, Duke laying 4, and I really like them laying 4 in this spot. I think people forgot, though, that Duke beat UNC earlier in the season by a double-digit margin, right? Because everyone only remembers, like, that last game, them spoiling Coach K's final game at Duke.
But that game was also crazy. Like, they got off to a ridiculous start on both ends. Like, I think they were up 20-something within the first 7 minutes. It was just like that was a weird game.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through all my thoughts, and I kind of was trying to find like the good sides of both teams and see which side I like better, because I really like how UNC has been playing, especially on the boards. They have been so strong at rebounding. They crushed the Peacocks, which was kind of a scrimmage and it's not saying much, but they had 49 rebounds. They're plus 46 in rebounding margin in the tournament. That's really good. Combine that with hitting 34 threes in the first 3 games, their offense is clicking right now. Now they're facing Duke that is just as good on the boards. They're just as good as moving the ball around, and they're playing with a ton of confidence after kind of going on a roll. The thing that worried me about Duke going into the big dance is their defense. And honestly, their defense has looked like, I don't think they're amazing, but I don't think it's as much of a liability as I thought that their defense would be in this tournament. And also Duke has the added motivation of trying to keep the career of their head coach alive. Like, I know UNC is shooting 49% from the field during the tournament. Duke hasn't seen a team with that kind of offensive firepower and versatility in the big dance yet. But they brought the defensive pressure throughout the tournament. Like I was saying, something that I was interested in. And they're moving the ball well. They're scoring pretty easily. And you mentioned it, Alex. Duke is shooting right now 55% from the field throughout the tournament, including what I thought was a crazy display the last 7 minutes of the game against Texas Tech. I know UNC's offense is high octane. They're incredible overall, but Duke is shooting better. And I think that Duke is able to come through in tight games. They're clutch at the line. The defense is locking in from 3, something that I was worried about at the beginning of the tournament. And this game is going to come down to making shots. So I was looking at some of these stats just to see, when the opponent shoots whatever percent from the field, how are UNC's stats? So I looked at Duke, when they've hit 50% or more of shots in 18, they've hit 50% or more of their shots in 18 games, including each of the last 4 and 8 of the last 12. When UNC allows teams to make 51% or more of their shots, they're 0-6. They're 10-9 when they allow teams to make 44% or more. And they're 18-0, Alex, when they limit teams to 44% or less from the field. Duke has been held to 44% just 6 times the entire year. So I think that if Duke gets their shot going, if they're shooting the 55% that they have been the entire tournament, UNC doesn't have a chance because of stats wise when you look at that. I think it's going to be a relentless game. Duke is going to be relentless shooting the ball. They're going to be relentless getting to the line, getting free throws. This game is going to come down again to the final minute. I think these are going to be 2 really close games, but I think Duke pulls away in the end and they cover the 4 points in this spot. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel more confident with Duke covering 4.5, depending on where you shop, than I do with Villanova. But the way that Jared and I talked about this yesterday, that I am probably going to look at this weekend, just a very safe, conservative money line parlay. You put both of them together, and it's actually not that bad. We get Duke and Kansas both to win money line parlay, plus 126 on FanDuel right now, plus 130 on DraftKings, plus 132 on BetMGM.
Love that.
I think that's worth that's worth a stab, and I think it's a very conservative way. But I think that's how I see this weekend playing out. I see Kansas winning, and I see Duke winning.
I like it. I want to talk for 1 second about just the odds of these teams. So right now, I was looking at it. FanDuel has the odds to name the finalists for the championship game. Who would you choose at this point to win the championship? Right now, Duke is at plus 160.
Oh, Kansas to win the championship?
Kansas plus 180, Nova plus 450, UNC plus 500.
To win the championship. I mean, I hate to be the narrative guy. But Duke has looked really good.
Really
they
good.
Just
plus 160.
They just really have. I thought the question on the rundown was the matchup, and the matchup was, of course, Duke Kansas at plus 125. I probably wouldn't bet that at this point, to be honest with you, because the value's just not there.
Yeah.
I was actually talking with my agent yesterday, and he said that before the tournament, I think he played it at plus 1,000 or something at all. So it's just like there's no value right now. Plus, you say it was 160?
Yeah, plus 160.
Yeah, there's no value there. So I think you missed that. That ship has sailed.
Okay, let's move on to NBA. Wait, 3, 2, boys to men. Boys to men. I feel like I haven't said that in a little while. Scal was giving me crap about it the other day, but we're moving on to the NBA right now. Obviously, things heating up. There's about 7 games left in the regular season, especially in the East. That play-in race, it's really heated up right now. And then also the race for the 1 to 4 seed in the tournament as well. I want to just get your take right now. Is the 7th seed the worst spot for the play-in game? Because like you're almost there. You're almost at 6, but nope, you still got to win another one to make it.
You're saying from that perspective, is that the worst? I mean, I mean that stinks because anytime you're playing in the play-in tournament, you don't want to be there. I looked at that question like position-wise, like would you rather strategically be playing the 8-9 game or the other game? But no, I think it stinks. The playing game. I don't know how I feel about the playing games. How do you feel?
Why? I love them. I mean,
it's extra basketball. Like,
it keeps the competition alive. I think it makes sense. I really do. Like it sucks for teams that are finishing in 7-8 that would normally be in, and they have a chance to maybe not be in if they lose both games. But at the same time, it's like,
listen.
Win games during the regular season.
Everyone can't make the playoffs, okay? Everyone can't make the playoffs.
Not everyone's a winner, Alex.
1 through 8, just keep it there. We don't need to add 10 teams. We don't need to expand the playoffs in college football. If you're not good enough to make the playoffs, you're not good enough to make the playoffs. That is what it is. But like you said, that race in the East is really interesting because if you were a team like the Nets and trying to strategize how you're going to play out these last 2 weeks of the season, you really can't. You just have to kind of keep winning to control your own destiny. That's the only way you can do it because you don't know who that 1 or 2 seed is going to be that you could be potentially seeing in the first round if you were to make it through the play-in tournament. You know what I mean? Totally. So it's really tough for those teams to strategically kind of figure out who they would want to match up with because nobody knows who's gonna be what seed in the East, especially.
Yeah, and you look at the top 4 spots right now. I'm looking at the standings. The Heat are sitting at 1. The Sixers, Bucks, Celtics are all 1 game back. So that top 4 spot, yesterday they were all like a half game apart. So Insane. It's literally changing every single day. And then between 7 and 10, the Cavs, obviously, they're 5.5 games back. But then it's really a race between the Nets, Hornets, and Hawks for that 8, 9, 10 seed right now. The Hawks sit a game back from the Nets, a half game back from the Hornets. It's just going to be really interesting to kind of see how things play out. How do you see it playing out at this point?
The standings?
No, like whoever gets 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, because at this point, the Bulls keep losing. If they're not careful,
the Bulls,
could be dropping down into that spot.
Real quick. The Bulls have been on a crazy slide recently. Not really sure what's going on with them, but at 7, 8, 9, I think Brooklyn's going to be in there. Man, I mean, the Cavs are another team that's sliding. So,
and Mobley got.
It's going to be between those. It's between the top 10 teams are pretty much locked in. It's just a matter of the order because, like the Knicks are like 4.5 games back from the Hawks. Like that's not going to happen.
Well, with the Cavs too, Mobley got hurt last night, right?
Right. So I mean, that's
How does
obviously
that impact things for them
not
too?
good for them. But they have they're 3 games up on the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really going to come down, I think, to the order of the Nets, Hornets, and Hawks. Because I think the Cavs are probably they should be safe in the sevens with a 3-game lead. They should be safe, but I mean, you never know.
I'm looking at the West too. The Lakers only a half game up of the Spurs for that 10 spot. Is there a chance
and
the Lakers miss the postseason?
I think they're definitely in danger, and I think I'm pulling up FanDuel right now because we were looking at some odds yesterday for the Lakers to make or miss the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to make the playoffs is -900 right now for no, plus 570 for yes to make the playoffs. The Lakers.
Wow.
Plus 570 for yes. So
are the playoffs considered the play-in game or no?
That is a great question. You should check with your book because we asked that question before. And I believe, if I remember, Jack, correct me, I believe the entire postseason is considered the playoff. I don't want to give out bad information, so definitely check whatever book you're using. But I believe when we looked it up the last time, that was the case. At least I want to say it was DraftKings we looked.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But definitely look into that because that is one of those tricky things.
Okay, you are on a KD prop tonight.
Yes.
Nets, yeah.
Yes.
The Nets are taking on the Pistons tonight in Brooklyn.
Nets taking on the Pistons in Brooklyn. I'm looking at KD's assists, over 6.5 assists. He's gone over that number in 3 of the last 4 games, and I think we're getting a little bit of value here with it being plus money. Kevin Durant, I mean, he's been incredible. I mean, Kyrie Irving kind of had a bad game last game out, with his home debut. But Kevin Durant has just been a consistent walking bucket. I mean, averaging 30 points this month. But he also is like an elite facilitator and has been doing that even whilst putting up almost 30 points every night. So I like KD to go over 6.5 assists tonight. Very few games. I think, hold on, I'm looking right now. There's only 2 games this month where he has less than 6. 2 games this month where he has less than 6 assists. So, we just need that hook. We need Kevin Durant, as I like to say, to be average tonight. He's averaging 7 assists this month. Can we get an average Kevin Durant night against the Pistons? I think
that's all we need. I feel like
all we need is average.
That's a safe bet. That's a safe bet against the Pistons. I really would. I actually might tell you on that one. I like it.
He's averaging actually, 6 assists this season, 7 for this month. So we need a little bit above average for the season, but just average March KD.
Just your average March KD with 7 games left. It's fine. Okay, let's get into hockey because we have P. Jensen coming on in a second. But before we do, I want to get into some of our picks. One of my picks is my best bet of the day. So I'm going to let you go first with your Bruins pick. You like the Bruins money line tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Bruins-Leafs game. And it's funny, the Bruins have just really turned up these past couple weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this game because the Leafs are also playing well. Did you see their Bieber jerseys the other night, by the way?
No, I didn't.
Bieber designed they were actually pretty sick jerseys.
Really?
Or sweaters, whatever they call them.
Yeah, they're not jerseys. They're called sweaters, Alex.
Sweaters, dressing room. I don't want to. Yeah, sorry, hockey people. They want to. Sorry. But when I'm looking at this game tonight, this is Toronto's 3rd game in 4 nights.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming off a big win against the Panthers on Sunday. Big emotional win.
Yeah.
They look to continue their playoff push here. And this is a Toronto team, as you know, that relies a lot on its offense. So with 3 games in 4 nights going on the road in Boston tonight, I think we could see a situation where we got some tired legs out there. And, this is a Boston team that traditionally physical on defense. They're going to make you work, right? Like nothing's going to be easy in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see this Toronto offense really struggling, even though they're a team that is 3rd in average goals per game. Take a lot of shots. I think they're 6th in shots taken. Great offense, but I can see them running into a little bit of a brick wall tonight in Boston. This also isn't a great spot for Toronto as road underdogs, 0-4 in their last 4 games as road dogs. So the Bruins won 4 straight. They're rolling, 14 wins in their last 17 games. Also scoring averaging 4 goals per game during that stretch too. So they're getting it done on offense and on defense. I think all signs are just pointing me to Bruins on home ice tonight. So Bruins money line is my play for that.
I like it. There's actually so many good games going on tonight. The Maple Leafs Bruins game, obviously. The other ones I was looking at were the Rangers taking on the Pens. I think that's a good one that you could get some good value on too. I was kind of leaning the Rangers in that spot. There's also the Hurricanes taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. That's a good one. And then the game that I'm looking at that I wanted to bet is the Avs taking on the Flames. Obviously, the Avs are in Calgary right now. And I'm not just betting the Avs, guys, because I'm an Avalanche fan. I'm betting them because I really believe in them in this spot. So I love the Avs 3 money line at plus 145. I also really just like the regular Avs money line at minus 106. The Avs are wanting to bounce back from a loss to the Wild. They have 5 wins in their last 7 games right now, and they're 7-1-2 in their last 10 games against the Flames. Offensively, they're averaging 3.79 goals per game. They're one of the best teams in the league on the offensive side, obviously, because of the star power and the firepower that they have on offense. Defensively, pretty solid too, 2.77 goals allowed per game. And they gave up 3 against the Wild, only scored 2. Obviously, they need to get a little bit better after that game. But Darcy Kemper, someone that I was a little nervous about heading into the season, has really happily surprised me. He's been solid between the pipes. He's 39-3 on the season in 46 games, 2.41 goals against average, 923 save percentage. The Flames right now, I know that they're like the hot team that everyone's talking about, especially Jared. Jared loves the Flames at this point.
Loves the Flames.
He loves the Flames. They're going for their 3rd consecutive win. They're averaging about 3.5 goals per game. But they scored 9 goals in their last game. I think they gave up all of their offense in the last game. They're not going to find any offense tonight. Defensively, they're only allowing 2.46 goals per game. They gave up 5 in their last game. I don't know. I'm leaning the Avs in this spot. Well, I'm not leaning. I bet the Avs in this spot, even though it's a pick 'em. Defensively, the Avs have only allowed 8 total goals in their last 4 games. And I think that the Flames are going to have a tough time scoring against a blue line with Makar, Taves, company like that. And the Flames have had a tough time against the Avs in the last 2 games against them. They only scored 3 total goals in the last 2 games against the Avs. The Avs have played really well offensively. They've scored 10 goals in their last 3 games. They're 6th in the league when it comes to power play conversions. And the Flames have one of the best defenses in the league at this point, but they've struggled in recent games. They've given up 12 total goals in their last 3 home games. I think they're having a hard time slowing down the Avs in this spot. And another thing people say, they're always like, oh, you're playing in Calgary. It's the altitude. It's going to get to you, so.
There's no altitude in Denver.
There's altitude in Denver. They're used to playing at altitude anyways. The lungs won't be burning as much as they normally would because guess what? It's just like playing on home ice, except for it's in Calgary. And I think that those Flames fans still have a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth after the Avs beat them in 5 in round 1 about 3 years ago when the Avs were the 8th seed and Flames were 1. So it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a firepower game. I like the Avs 3 money line. I like the value plus 145. And I would also just bet the regular Avs money line too at minus 106. I think there's good value there as well. Let's bring in Pete Jensen, though, host of the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast, because we want to break down some of the moves that were made at the trade deadline, what he's seeing in the standings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Pete, how are you doing today? Happy Tuesday.
How you doing, guys? Good to be on with you. And yeah, we're full-blown stretch run right now. A lot of the Eastern Conference playoff picture is already solidified for the most part, but the West is really interesting with all these teams, including the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that we all thought would be one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup this year. They're on thin ice right now. They're playing a little bit better lately, but a ton of injuries and just a little shocking, right, to see Vegas on the brink of either making or missing the playoffs. Nobody ever would have expected that.
Who do you think, Pete, obviously the trade deadline ended last week. Who do you think are the 3 biggest winners of the trade deadline? I had said the Rangers are because they really made some big moves.
Yeah, I love what the Rangers did to boost their secondary scoring by getting Andrew Kopp and Frank Vetrano. Kopp has 5 points in his first 3 games. Frank Vetrano has 4 goals in his first 6 games since coming over from Florida, where he was a really underrated goal scorer. And both of those guys bring versatility, bring a little physical element to their game as well. which makes me feel a little bit better about the Rangers' chances against whoever they play. Of course, they could be anywhere from the first seed in the Metro to the third seed, depending on how the cookie crumbles from here. But, I think that their chances of bouncing back over the course of a series definitely have improved, and their support in front of Igor Shesterkin, the most valuable goalie in the league this year, has improved as well. I also really like what some of these other teams have done. The Florida Panthers were already one of the strongest teams out there, and they got considerably better somehow because they added the biggest fish in Claude Giroux. So that's really exciting. He's another guy. He's even better than what Kopp brings to the Rangers because Giroux is an elite player that could play center or wing. And when the going gets tough, he could really help Florida get over the hump because that team hasn't won a playoff series since 1996. So this is the year that they have to turn it around and try to win the whole thing and try to get over the hump. If they play the Tampa Bay Lightning, their chances have certainly improved since bringing in Claude Giroux. And then another team that got better, Hampus Lindholm went to the Boston Bruins. And the Boston Bruins right now might be a deeper and scarier team than they were in 2019 when they made the Cup final. We've seen it in recent days. They beat the Lightning. They beat the Islanders. They're rolling three strong lines with Pasternak on the second line. And adding Hampus Lindholm to their defense and keeping Jake DeBrusk. We all thought he was going to get traded. All of a sudden now Boston has a great profile going into the playoffs. And that's a team that I could actually see winning the whole thing if things go right with their young goaltender.
Speaking of the young goaltender, let's talk about him a little bit because I like the Bruins tonight. We got a comment in the chat saying it depends on who's in goal. They don't like the young guy. I said, hold on. Both of these guys have been pretty good. Let's talk about Jeremy Swayman for a little bit. He is young. He's inexperienced. Do you think if Boston is able to make a deep run in the playoffs, like you're saying, that he's a guy that could step up for them, or do you think he's too inexperienced?
I mean, you can't really dispute what he's done in his NHL career so far. Last year, he had like a .940 save percentage in 10 games. So good with the small sample size. This year, he's gotten a bigger sample size because Ullmark has been hot or cold, and Tuukka Rask came back from injury mid-season and then ended up retiring. So it's Swayman's crease, as far as I'm concerned, for game one of the playoffs, whenever that time comes. He's got a .930 save percentage, which is elite through 41 NHL games, and that is not a small sample size. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what Jeremy Swayman could do come playoff time. Interested as well to see if he really heats up down the stretch and gets, a couple of shutouts. He's already got 3 this year and 5 in 41 games in his career. If he gets another couple of shutouts and gets maybe to 6 shutouts, he could be a dark horse to win the Calder Trophy this year. I love what Mo Seider has done for the Red Wings, but the forward group of rookies is not out of this world. Like Cole Caulfield's been great lately, but all those other guys like Zegras and Bunting and Lucas Raymond have tapered off a little bit. So you never know. Swayman could be in the mix for the Calder Trophy if he really keeps this thing going down the stretch.
Speaking of another goalie and another trophy, Igor Shesterkin has been phenomenal this season, and he's currently right now the third favorite to win the Hart Trophy. Do you think, Pete, that media members could pick a goalie to win the award for the first time in 7 years? Because the way he's playing, it is of Hart Trophy caliber at this point.
Yeah, and the Rangers, as much as we've been talking them up and they're near the top of the standings all year and they've sustained their success, they don't have good possession metrics. So it is pretty amazing that Shesterkin has stood on his head like this. And, except for maybe a couple of bad games here or there, they always bounce back from those games when he occasionally allows 3, 4, 5 goals. It's pretty rare this year. But yeah, to answer your question, I think he's definitely garnered attention and consideration here. It's just it depends how he finishes. If the Rangers go on a heater and he gets a couple of shutouts and they win the division, then yeah, you could see Shesterkin maybe not only win the Vezina, but really be a contender with Austin Matthews and McDavid and anybody else, Johnny Gaudreau, Jonathan Huberdeau. I mean, those guys have elite offensive totals, but it's hard to pick one guy over the other, whereas Shesterkin could make the debate a little bit easier if he heats up down the stretch. So, and then what the Rangers have done, like their coach Gerard Gallant, if they finish strong, could be in the mix for the Jack Adams Award for top coach this year. So the Rangers will be in on the award conversation for sure down the stretch.
I want to circle back and talk about the Lightning a little bit, because how can we not talk about the Lightning? They won back-to-back Stanley Cups during the COVID pandemic here, when the playoff formats were shifted and changed around for obvious reasons. Now that we are back to a normal format, do you think that is going to make navigating the playoffs more difficult for the Lightning?
It's a tough Atlantic division. You see the teams all getting better at the trade deadline. The Leafs got a little better. We talked about the Panthers and the Bruins, and the Lightning made a trade for Brandon Hagel, who's a 20-plus goal scorer this year. The problem with the Lightning in their quest to three-peat is that they just don't have the depth anymore. They lost their whole third line in the offseason. If that team deals with one or two injuries, they're not going to repeat. They don't have the depth to sustain an absence of like Kucherov, like they have. Remember, he didn't play all regular season last year, and they still got where they needed to be. Then he heated up in the playoffs, and they were able to repeat. They don't have that same luxury anymore. That said, put them up against Boston, put them up against Florida, put them up against the Rangers or the Hurricanes, and I still like their chances to beat any of those teams in a 7-game series because of their big five with all the star power: Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, Victor Hedman, and Andrei Vasilevsky, who's probably the best goalie of this era in the Stanley Cup playoffs with what he's done the past 2 years. So, they're still as good as anybody on paper, but I just feel like when the going gets tough this year, they might fall short against any one of those elite teams, because they do have a really tough path in the Atlantic Division.
When you look at the East this year, speaking of the Atlantic Division, just the East in general, has there been any surprises to you in terms of teams that are a little bit higher in the standings that you didn't necessarily think at the beginning of the season would have as much of a chance to be up there?
I'm definitely surprised that the Islanders are not in the mix. I mean, I picked, I think, 7 out of the 8 teams. The Penguins are one team that I didn't pick because it was that turning point year. And I mean, all those guys are in contract years: Malkin, Letang, Brian Rust. They have some older guys like Jeff Carter, but they're as good as they ever have been, really. Like the Penguins are a team that not many people are talking about as a real contender to win the whole thing. They're probably in that second echelon. They're not in the top 5, but they're in that 6 to 10 range of really dangerous teams out there. So, and they added Rickard Rakell at the deadline. So I've been really impressed by the Penguins, just how they continuously are able to be near the top of the Metro standings. Even when you look at a roster and say, this team is over the hill a little bit, then it almost seems like, even with injury absences and things like that, the Penguins always get to the playoffs. And this year, because the Islanders aren't there, remember, they've lost 3 straight years, first-round exits. 2 of them have come against the Islanders. You got to imagine the Penguins are pretty happy that New York won't be in the playoffs this year.
They're playing the other team from the Big Apple tonight in the Rangers. I'm looking forward to that game. That's going to be a fun one, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. Those teams can bring it low scoring, can bring it high scoring. I know Tristan Jarry beat Shesterkin earlier in the year in a 1-0 game. So, and that could easily be a playoff preview. For sure. 2 teams that roll 3 strong lines, 2 high-end defensemen: Adam Fox, reigning Norris Trophy winner, and Chris Letang is having a bounce-back season for the Penguins. I think I have a little bit more confidence in Shesterkin versus Tristan Jarry once we get to the playoffs, because Jarry kind of faltered last year in the series against the Islanders, but you really never know. I mean, these teams are very even, could very well come down to a save or 2 in the clutch. So I'd take my chances with Shesterkin in a 7-game series over Tristan Jarry, but I wouldn't blame anybody, because Jarry is kind of taken everybody by surprise these past couple of years since the guys like Fleury and Murray were no longer on the team.
Yeah. Pete, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to talking to you again down the stretch run. Have a great Tuesday. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Pete.
You too, guys. And yeah, hopefully catch up when the playoffs start in about a month or so. So looking forward to that. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
Check out the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast, whether you are into betting or fantasy or DFS or just a general hockey fan trying to cover all the teams around the league.
Love it. Thanks so much, Pete, host of the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast. Have a great one.
Thanks.
All right, Alex, let's get into our Pickswise 3-star play of the day before we talk about our best bets. So go to the website, pickswise.com. Who we got up there at the top for 3-star?
All right, I'm looking. Our friend Mark Lammy. I think Jared gave out one of his plays yesterday. But we're with Mark. He's on the ice. He's on the Florida Panthers puck line tonight against the Canadians. Go ahead to pickswise.com to check out his reasoning. Mark Lammy, Panthers puck line.
Panthers puck line. You love to see it. Mine's also a hockey pick. I gave it out a little bit earlier in the show, so I'll let you go first, Alex. You're on a player prop for your play of the day.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know why, but I'm on an NBA player prop play of the day kick. Like, it's all I feel like I've been giving.
Say that 5 times fast.
NBA player prop.
No, you don't actually.
But I feel like it's not like I've just been giving those out. So I'm going back to a guy I've gone back to more than a couple of times. Tyrese Maxey. Okay. Going over 2.5 threes for Maxey tonight. It's at plus 125. I think that this is a great value play for Maxey because this prop actually got bumped up. He's usually sitting at 1.5 threes, but for tonight, 2.5. So you might be like, whoa, that's sketchy. I don't know. But I'm looking at this. He's going against the Bucks team tonight. Bottom half of the league in opponent 3-point percentage, and last in the league in opponent 3-pointers made. So they are not good at defending the three. Last game against the Suns, Maxey put up 10 threes. He did hit 3, but he's also hit at least 2 threes in 8 straight games. So I think that this is a good spot. We need 3 threes to fall, obviously, but if we know with the stats are telling us we should get at least 2 tonight. We just need an extra one to fall. Plus 125.
So just a little bit above average, if you would say.
We need Maxey to be
slightly above
average.
Slightly
above average.
Yeah.
That's what we need tonight. Slightly above average Maxey against a bad Bucks defense beyond the perimeter. So.
Okay. I like it. I do. I'm going back to my Avalanche puck pick. Avalanche 3-way money line at plus 145. I said they wanted to bounce back from a loss to the Wild. They're in Calgary tonight taking on the Red Hot Flames. But I think that the Avs are going to have a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth. They haven't lost 2 games in a row very many times this season. I think they've only lost 2 games in a row like twice all season long. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10 games against the Flames. Offensively, they're one of the best in the league, averaging 3.79 goals per game. Defensively, solid as well, 2.77 goals per game. And Darcy Kemper has been a pleasant surprise for me this season. 39-3, 39-3. I had to space that out on the season in 46 games, 2.41 goals against average, 923 save percentage, which is really good. I know the Flames have been red hot, pun intended. Jared's on them. He loves them. They're going for their 3rd consecutive win. They're averaging right now 3.5 goals per game. They scored 9 goals in their last game. So maybe their offense, they scored them all. They're not going to have anything left in the tank tonight. And then defensively, they're allowing 2.46 goals per game at this point. But I'm leaning towards the Avs in this spot, even though it's a pick 'em. I bet them at their 3-way money line at plus 145. Defensively, they've only allowed 8 total goals in their last 4 games. They've been pretty good. That averages out, if my math is correct, 2 goals a game. And they've also played well offensively. They scored 10 goals in their last 3 games. They're 6th in the league when it comes to power play conversions. I know the Flames have one of the best defenses in the league at this point, but they have struggled in recent games. They've given up 12 total goals in their last 3 home games. They're going to have a hard time slowing down the Avs. Nathan McKinnon, Nazem Kadri and company. And then also defensively, the Avs are getting that offensive firepower from the guys on their blue line. Defensively, I think that they're going to be able to slow the Flames down. So I like the Avs 3-way money line in this spot, plus 145. I also like the regular Avs money line at minus 106. But my best bet is the 3-way at plus 145. Lock it in, baby.
Love it. Love it.
Lock it. All right. That's Tuesday for us, guys. Taco Tuesday. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube
Taco
channel.
Tuesday for me.
Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Alex Galais. I'm Laura Jabara, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Don't miss us too much. Let's get it. Let's bet it.